Hello and welcome to this week's big game preview podcast ahead of Ireland's Guinness Men's Six Nations Championship Round 3 clash with Wales on Saturday afternoon. On the panel tonight, we are lucky to have a stellar trio. Our two Irish representatives are familiar to the channel, so welcome back Tom Coleman and Adam Latham. So welcome back, fellas.
Cheers, thank you.
Good to have you on. And as I've said before, we promise to do what no other Irish podcast has to offer this year, with at least one guest to represent the competing nations in each and every show. As Ireland play Wales this weekend, we have a Welsh representative. And our guest debuted with us before the World Cup last year. He's a WRRAP Podcast co-host, a Dragon Slayer podcast co-host, and even at that, he's still very positive. Welcome back, Jamie Phillips. Great to have you on, mate.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to the chat.
Should be good. And just to remind everyone, as always, before we kick off, that we are on YouTube and we are across all platforms for podcasts as well, if depending on which one you want to choose. So we will start with the Matchday 23s as always. And as Ireland are the home side, we will start with them. Their 23 sees multiple changes, 7 in total, with Kieran Frawley replacing Hugo Keenan, the main decision, as well as Ollie Yeager set to win his debut from the bench, another main talking point. The full 23 reads as follows. At fullback, Kieran Frawley. On the wings, it's Calvin Nash and James Lowe. Robbie Henshaw and Bundy Aki once again in the centres, with Jemison Gibson Park and Jack Crowley making up the half-backs. The pack starts off with Andrew Porter, Dan Sheehan and Tyke Furlong once again packing down beside each other in the front row. It's Joe McCarthy and Tyke Byrne in the second row, with Peter O'Mahony captain the side from blindside alongside Josh van der Fleer and fit again Galen Doris. Ronan Kelleher, Keane Healy, debutant in waiting, Ollie Yeager, James Ryan, Ryan Baird, and Jack Conan make up the 6 of a 6-2 bench split, along with Conor Murray and Stuart McCluskey. Tom, I will start with you. What catches your eye from this Irish lineup?
Well, first of all, thanks for the invite again, Caelan. And as a consummate professional and podcaster you are, I know it was probably a Freudian slip that when you had in the programme notes about discussing the Ireland team, then the Italy team. So I don't know if that's
Apologies.
I don't know. Is that just where Wales are at the moment, or was it just
no? That's not where they're at. Don't get me wrong. This was a case of copying and pasting the notes from last time, which didn't go well, and I've been hung out to dry, which I appreciate.
That's okay. No, that's what we're here for. If anytime a Leinster I can get one over a Munster guy, I'm going to take the opportunity. Yeah, the obvious one, obviously, from an Ireland point of view, is. Funny enough, he's a club man out in Skerries. Is obviously Kieran Frawley is probably the main call from the starting 15 with Hugo Keenan out. I suppose there was a question always pondered from Leinster fans anyway and Irish fans, what would happen if Hugo Keenan was injured, and it was always the joke that it'd be a half injured Hugo and then Hugo Keenan in a moon boot and then Hugo Keenan on a trolley and then he'd eventually pick somebody else. But yeah, it's Frawley that's got the nod. And funny enough, he started the first 4 games for Leinster this year at fullback. Leinster a little bit hit and miss at the start of the season. Obviously, Nienbar was not there yet, and they had some good results and some indifferent results. I suppose he got the winning try down in Galway in the last minute against Connacht, and then to be fair, he was a little bit shaky against Ulster when Ulster won in the RDS. He wasn't his best performance. And Ulster did expose him with a bit of a kicking game. So it'll be interesting to see if Wales and Gatland have looked at that Ulster game in particular and see where they can exploit Kieran at fullback. But I suppose Andy Farrell has always been accused of being conservative and with his selections. Well, he's shown this Six Nations that he's willing to take some chances and willing to take some risks. And obviously Frawley is a bit of a left field one. I think picking Kieran and picking particularly McCluskey at 23 is probably more of a sign in the lack of faith the coaching team has in our other back 3 available players more than anything else in their form. The fact that he's gone with an out and out 12 on the bench, which McCluskey's a fantastic player and he'd probably get 50 to 100 caps only for the competition he's had with Henshaw and Bundy Aki. But he's still just an out and out 12, and it's interesting we've gone with somebody like that on the bench, which is a bit of a rarity. So I suppose they're the big calls. And it's interesting he's picking this match to give Ollie Yeager a chance. Does he rate I think Yeager's done well in the scrums for Munster when he comes in. He seems fairly solid. But still it's a step up for him. I'm not sure, you probably know better than me, Kellen. Has he made his Champions Cup debut? Probably, has he been in?
He played against Exeter and he played
Yeah,
against Northampton and Toulon.
I suppose
He
they were
scrummaged very well against Northampton in particular. The other two hit and miss, but very well against Northampton. And I think it was Miller Mills who's on the bench for Scotland that started that day. So he's more than competent. And I think if we're going to discuss Jaeger, we probably will later as well. But like, it's his breakdown work that I'm really impressed with. Like he's like an extra lock in terms of the amount that he gets done at the breakdown, which is definitely a different point because obviously Beelum and Furlong are more known for their ball carrying, O'Toole as well. So it's always good to have different options that way, isn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So it's interesting that I think Finlay Beelum, to be honest with you, as far as I can be concerned, even as a big Furlong fan, I think Finley's pushing Tig for a starting position in the Irish team. I think he's playing that well. So it's an interesting call to give Jaeger a chance in this particular game, because I think Beelum is playing quite well and he's hugely underrated. I think he's a fantastic player for Ireland, and obviously filled in very well in the Six Nations last year when Furlong was injured for a good few games. So but I suppose it's good that he's going to keep the squad on their toes. But Welsh scrum is, we'll talk about Wales shortly, but the Welsh scrum has gone decent enough. So I think it'll be a decent enough test for Jaeger when he does come on. And if probably Healy will be on at the same time with Kelleher. So that could be a good front three scrummaging unit to finish off the last sort of 20 minutes. Like, there'll be no frills. It'll be just a solid unit of square shoulders. And maybe that's what Ireland will just need in the last maybe 20 minutes, just to get some platform.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jamie, it's good to get an outside perspective on Ireland as well as much as on Wales, because you'd be familiar with most of this 23 at the very least from watching them at URC level. From your understanding of this Irish team, what jumps out to you, and looking at it from the Welsh perspective as well?
The more I look at this Ireland team, the more nervous I am for Saturday, is what I'm thinking right now, because it's so big, it's powerful. I saw someone on Irish Rugby Twitter describe it as a meaty 23, very meaty, and it is, isn't it? And I think what stood out for me the most, I was intrigued to see who was going to be at fullback, because you're working against an outstanding player. I was always intrigued to see who they brought in. And Kieran Forrest, an interesting choice, making his first test start. So it'll be interesting to see how he gets on there. But I think it's the bench is what caught my eye when you look at Ireland's team. Gone for a 6-2 split, lots of experience and power to come onto the field. The depth, really impressive depth with Ireland, as you'd expect. Ollie Yeager's an interesting selection. Now, I thought Finlay Beelum might have come on, but I saw Andy Farrell say today that he just wanted to have a look at Ollie Yeager. So that's quite interesting. And obviously, I've seen a bit of him. He looks a good scrummager. Really decent at the breakdown. But yeah, it's the bench that I'm really concerned about. I mean, you've got guys like Cian Healy's on 126 caps, James Ryan, 61 caps, Conor Murray, 113 caps, So much experience and power to come off the bench. And I think that is going to play a big part in this game. And when you just look at the two teams, I mean, we'll talk about Wales in a bit. And I thought we had a decent team named, but when you compare it to Ireland, it does look quite inferior. And I'm really not sure how we're going to be able to cope with the physicality and the power that Ireland are going to bring. But yeah, I mean, whatever team Ireland put out, it's going to be strong. It's going to be physical. And I think Wales are in for a very difficult afternoon in Dublin on Saturday, it's fair to say.
Yeah, well, we hope it's not too one-sided, like we're respectful on this podcast, if nothing else. But and people have spent good money on a ticket. I don't want it over by halftime either. There's that side of it too. But
no,
Adam, I want to get your thoughts on it as well, because one of the things we like to do on this preview show is we look at the key selection decisions. And for me, the big ones are, as we mentioned, Frawley and Ollie Jaeger, but also Caelan Doris is there, having had an injury knock, and Stuart McCluskey on the bench. So of those, or you could take all of them if you like, what kind of stands out to you, and what do you make of those decisions?
I'm going to go with Caelan Doris first, because everyone was slightly worried last week when we saw him not in training. There was like a photo of him standing outside training. I would say at the minute he's probably almost like our forward version of Hugo Keenan in the fact that he's absolutely incredible, and I do prefer him at 8 than when he played previously in the back row. Um, I just think he is going to lead the team on after Omani. I personally think he's got a good head on him. And he's just so solid when it comes to attack and defense, and in around the ruck, he's just a complete 8. Stuart McCluskey being on the bench for me is nice. Having that one Ulster player, at least there's an Ulster player there. My only worry with that is that we've seemed to have our fly half replacement already on the pitch if anything happens. I think we're gonna get down to it. I see on the document, but if you don't mind me saying, I think there's one issue with this team that I see is that if we have hypothetically any injury to either Crawley or Frawley, we're gonna have to put someone like Robbie Henshaw in at 15, which it's okay. It's just that I always have those flashbacks to England a couple of years ago when he started 15. I just think that he's so much more it suited to 12 that, oh no, 13 even, that we need him to stay in the center, and hopefully Stuart McCluskey will come on for either one of the two and just shove either one of the two up. But I can't imagine. It's interesting selection because Jack Crawley playing 10 probably for the full game. I can't imagine he's not going to come off, judging by this bench. Yeah, and Ollie Jaeger, of course. It's very interesting as well because, as Tom said, Beelham's probably pushing Furlong right now. And I thought O'Toole is also in the lineup, is in the squad, is pushing as well. I'd say that we've got four very solid tight heads in the squad, which is very good because I'd say Tag Furlong, I wouldn't know how many years he's got left of him just doing monstrous things that we see week in, week out. So it's very good that we've sort of got a conveyor belt now of tight heads coming through, and I'm excited to see Jaeger come off the bench.
Yeah, that's something that jumped out to me as well, because before, I'm going to say last November, December, I did a depth chart thing and looked at tight head, and like, it's better than it's been in my lifetime anyway, in terms of just the sheer depth. Like, the gap between Furlong and Beelham isn't a lot, between Beelham and O'Toole, between O'Toole and Jaeger, and even likes of Jack Ainger, who's not involved. John Ryan and Marty Moore could definitely do a job scrummaging wise if they were called upon. And Thomas Clarkson's been doing all right, had a couple of hiccups for Leinster, but he's been doing all right when he's been asked. Like, that's a great place to be. And to see Jaeger get the chance, it's something I called for. I did want to see a couple of new caps in there. I don't buy into this, well, it's his Six Nations debut thing for lads who played at the World Cup, for instance. But like, it is good to see a new face in there. It always is. And you know, you could insert your jibe at Wales here, but we won't do that because we'll move on to them in a minute. But as well as that, we mentioned McCluskey. Potentially, do we see Gibson Park go to the wing again if something happens? Or is that break glass? Like, I think that feels like too much, but like, you're going to be moving out across your backline anyway.
I would love to see Ryan Baird in at 12, or just move up Joe McCarthy in at 12.
This is why we needed Thomas Ahern.
Robbie Keane. Yeah.
Thomas Ahern on one wing, Ryan Baird on the other, and James Lowe in at out half, just for the absolute shits and giggles.
But last 10 minutes, just bring on the lads.
Geez, then it won't be 7-1 bench splits, it'll be 9-2 benches because we'll have so many lads on there, and then we'll see what the discourse is all about. But we'll move on to Wales now. Their side, typical Ireland week fashion. Their side was named on Tuesday, well ahead of the rest, and mid-Wednesday feel very, very boring until Ulster kind of stepped in there and took over. It reads as it reads as follows: starting at fullback with young Cameron Winnett. His wingers are Josh Adams and Rio Dyer. George North and Nick Tompkins are again the centres, with Sam Costello back in at out half alongside Thomas Williams. The pack remains unchanged, with Gareth Thomas, Elliot Dee and Kieran Azarati making up the front row. Captain David Jenkins is partnered by Adam Beard in the second row. And the back row is the industrious Alex Mann, Tommy Erfel, Aaron Wainwright trio. On the bench, it's Ryan Elias, Corey Domachowski, Dylan Lewis, Will Rowlands, potential debutant in Mackenzie Martin, Kieran Hardy, Ian Lloyd, and Mason Grady. Jamie, I'll let you take control here on the Welsh side of things. What do you think we should be looking out for here?
Well, there's one change from the team that played England at Twickenham, and it's Sam Costello that comes in from Iwan Lloyd at 10, and I think that's the right decision, personally. Iwan Lloyd, I thought he showed some nice touches at Twickenham, but I did think that some of his decision-making was a little bit naive, and he looked a little bit lost at times, and I think Wales see Sam Costello as the guy, the long-term replacement for Dan Biggar at 10, so I can understand why he's came in to the squad. It looks pretty settled. Other than that, obviously, if you look at our bench, you mentioned Mackenzie Martin, massive game for him. He's 20 years old. This is going to be only his 10th professional start in his first senior season. So he's had 5 starts at Cardiff, and he's come off the bench 4 times. And in his 10th game of pro rugby, he's going to be facing Ireland in the Six Nations. I mean, that's just nuts, isn't it? That's absolutely incredible. So, he's a big talent. He's been talked about a lot in Wales. He's quite raw. He's big. He's powerful. He's a good ball carrier. So building depth for the number 8, because Tulu Falato is not going to be around forever. It's really important that we build some depth there. You got Dylan Lewis then coming onto the bench. We do have issues at tight head. So Leon Brown is injured at the moment. We had to send Archie Griffin back to Bath because of a knee issue. I haven't seen a great deal of Dylan Lewis. Scrummaging has never really been his strength, but I am reliably informed that since he's been at Harlequins, his scrummaging has improved, which you don't thought, considering Adam Jones is his scrum coach, wouldn't you? So, I mean, it's young, it's, compared to the Highland team, there's not a lot of experience and power there. I think our most capped player on the bench is Dylan Lewis. I mean, we do have Will Rowlands as well to come off the bench. He had a bit of grunt, bit of power. There's always a big debate in Wales about Adam Beard. He's very much a Marmite player. A lot of people either, love him or hate him. But I thought Will Rowlands might have come into the starting 15, but they've gone for Adam Beard. So that's fine. Ryan Elias on the bench, really pleased as well that Elliot D is starting this test. I think he's done really well, because it's no secret Wales got big problems at the lineup, which I'm sure Ireland would be looking to exploit. And when Ryan Elias has been a hooker, I'm afraid it just hasn't functioned. I know you can't blame it all on the hooker because there's so many different components in the lineup, but when Ryan Elias is throwing in, it's just not good enough. So Diaz been given another opportunity. He's never let Wales down, so I'm pleased about that. And then Corey Domachowski, who I think is growing into that role now. Lou said he's coming on really nice. Kieran Hardy, it does raise questions about Gareth Davies, doesn't it? So Gareth Davies, he had a very poor game against Scotland in that first half. Not entirely his fault, because I think he was a victim of that game plan, wherever the hell that game plan was in the first half. But I just wonder, are we going to see him again throughout this tournament? It does raise questions. But he's pretty much sticking to the same team almost the same team that played England. We're going to need the bench to make a big impact, it's fair to say. But that's kind of where the Wales team, it feels settled already, doesn't it, this Wales team? But big challenge ahead of them, that's for sure.
Absolutely. I might just pick your brain on that bench in particular, because Elias, as you said, has had some set piece issues, and again, it's not all in the hooker, but definitely you hear that and you look at Ireland's bench, you're thinking, well, bring on Baird and James Ryan for McCarthy and Van der Fleer, and let's see where his nerves are at then. But that's just the sadist inside of me. But you'd imagine Rowlands will pack a bit of a punch. Mason Grady certainly can make an impact. Lloyd can freshen things up. Hardy can freshen things up. I know he's, again, it's slightly in that Marmite bracket. If Wales are still in this game with 20 minutes to go and are looking to this bench, do you think it is about freshening things up and changing shape like they did against Scotland, or is it just trying to see it out kind of thing that they did against England?
I think it's going to be damage limitation, if I'm perfectly honest with you, the way this game could potentially go. But it's very difficult when you look at the Wales bench. It's hard to see who can come on and really change a game. I mean, I guess Iwan Lloyd can come on, he can create, can't he? We saw that against Scotland. He come off the bench, he had a very good first half. But it's hard to know if Wales are going to be in the game at that point. But yeah, I mean, it's just difficult to see, who's going to come off the bench and make a big impact, or who are the game changers in this team. It's very hard to see, but yeah, it's going to be tricky. I would like to see Mackenzie Martin come off the bench and get some minutes under his belt. I think that's going to be a nice occasion for him this round. But yeah, it's going to be tough, really, really tough to see who's going to come on and sort of make that difference, that impact, really.
Absolutely. And Adam, I might come to you next because you watch Euro C as a lot of us do because it's the best league and etc. Sponsored post and all that. But where do you think of the Welsh 23 there? Where do you think they can cause Ireland problems? Where would you be looking at from our perspective?
I'd be looking firmly at George North. It's been the case for years. I actually really do like him. I know it's happened over the last couple of years. I really like him at 13. I think he just causes mayhem in that sort of 13 role. I rate Reffel. I think he's quite a tricky back row. He always gets in there. He always sort of gets involved and he always gets stuck in. He always goes in for jackals. I was saying this to one of my mates who's Welsh. I just think that Wales have quite a young team and they're building, and I feel like it at the minute a couple of losses for them won't do any harm. In the games before, granted, take away the first half against Scotland, that second half showed so much promise. The game against England as well showed a lot of promise as well. I just think that this team could be very tricky going forward. Maybe not this year, but I feel like they're building something, and I feel like also as well, you see the guy that got the drop goal against us on the weekend for Ospreys, the young 10. I think he only was recently capped for Ospreys. He also looks like he can kick on and do some damage in the international setup as well when he gets a chance, if he gets a chance. So I feel like they could be building something good here. It's just a case of whether they can catch us out, really. Because we stick to a very samey game plan, and it's so ironed out, and it's so at the minute, touch wood, it's perfect, that they need to catch us out somehow using some way of wizardry almost to try and figure out what to do to break this Ireland team. And I do feel like it's probably putting George North through that Jack Crawley channel. Do you know what I mean? Just sort of bashing up on 10 every time. Because that's a way, we don't have a 10 on the bench. There's a way of alienating the game there. So yeah, I would say it's a classic answer, but George North is probably my biggest worry in that 13 slot.
Understandably, in some way. Jamie, I might just come back to you for a minute because I was on, I suppose it's a sister podcast, the Dragon's Lair pod, the Scarlet's Fever one there last week, and we talked about Wales. And I had the same opinion as Adam. I think there's a good young team. There's a good core there. And I think like that loss against England, there's a good chance if the likes of Bigger is on the field, they win it. And if Tipperich is on the field, they win it. Do you think there should be a sense of, well, okay, it's one thing calling for patience, but there is really good young talent in this Welsh squad that they will come good, especially with Gatland there?
Oh, absolutely. And look, if you look at the Six Nations campaign, it is disappointing, play 2, lost 2. But it is important to note we could have won those games. In the first game against Scotland, it was only a missed conversion that denied us from completing a fantastic comeback. And then in the second game against England, we fell off in the second half, which was really disappointing, especially in the last 15 minutes. There is green shoots in this Wales team. And, even though we have lost 2, I feel quite optimistic about Wales. There's a lot of talented young kids, Cameron Winnett, Alex Mann, Mason Grady. There's a lot of young talent coming through, and it is going to require patience. And Warren Gatland said after the England game, the Welsh Rugby public need to show a bit of patience. I mean, I wish he'd said that before the tournament started, rather than say we could absolutely win this tournament. I don't think that was the wisest thing to say, because the Welsh Rugby public are pretty demanding. There is a certain section of the Welsh public that expect these Grand Slams and the championships. We have been spoiled over the years, but we are rebuilding. We are in transition, and we could have a heavy beat this weekend. We probably will, but I don't think it should detract from what Wales are trying to do. Gatlin has always been good at bringing young talent through, and we do have to be patient. And I do believe that in the next 2 or 3 years, we're going to be a very good team. We're going to be a very competitive team. But going forward, looking ahead to this game, I am intrigued to know how Wales are going to play it, because we've seen Rob Howley this week come out and say we're going to have to play rugby chaos. He loves rugby chaos, doesn't he, Rob Howley? And we can't play the Warren Ball way anymore. That's the one thing. That's the one learning I've got from Wales watching them in the Six Nations. If you look at that game against Scotland, we were losing the collisions. We were missing one-up tackles. And then in the second game against England, we tried Warren Ball. I think that it was a moment in the first half. We went through 25 phases, and we just couldn't get over the game line. And we ended up going backwards at one point. And yes, it was good defence by England. Felix Jones is doing a good job there. But I think it shows that with this current crop of players, we can't play that way anymore, because we haven't got the likes of Jamie Roberts, we haven't got the likes of Jonathan Davis, we haven't got the likes of Alex Cuthbert now. Yes, we got George North there, but he's not the player he was 7 years ago. We haven't got Tulube Faletau now, so we are going to have to try and find an identity and a style that suits us. And I think at the moment we haven't quite found our identity and a style that suits us. We're sort of caught between two styles that we're trying to play. So I think we need to be positive. We need to be patient. But yeah, I am very optimistic about Wales. And don't get me wrong, I don't want us to get the wooden spoon. I do think that game against Italy probably is going to be a wooden spoon decider, if I'm being honest. But then the way France are going, who knows? They've been very unconvincing. Maybe we can turn them over at Cardiff. But yes, I think people in Wales, people who know their rugby, reasonable people, will give this team time, and they'll be patient, and they will understand that this is a cycle that we're going through. We are building for the future, definitely.
Absolutely. And I agree with all that. I do think you'll give France a game at the very least, providing France don't cut things open at this weekend and realize, oh, we're actually good at this game when we want to be, which is always very French as well. Tom, we'll move on to where we see this game going and how we see it unfolding, as we always do. And I'll start with yourself, because so much of the talk this week is about Ireland should win by 2-3 scores even, quite a convincing win. But where do you see Ireland getting the job done, or maybe struggling in certain elements?
Yeah, I think in fairness to Jamie, he definitely hit some things on the head about where Wales can win and lose this game, and conversely where we can win and lose the game. I think if you inverse it, for Wales to stand a chance is the wrong word, but it's all about possession for Wales. I know Howley likes his rugby chaos, but I think if Wales can sort of break the 55% possession, that'll give them a far better chance, because as Jamie rightly pointed out, if it's the other way around where it's 55% Ireland, Wales don't have the physicality they used to do this sort of 250 tackle plus sort of heroic Gatlin type defense and send all his players back to the regions broken. sort of win.
That's how it works, yeah.
That's how it works normally in Wales.
Yeah.
Sort of win. And Ireland is a team that likes to play with on ball. So given Wales's sort of mixed bag at scrum and line out, it's difficult to see where Wales are going to get a platform to get that sort of magical 55% possession that I'm sort of just thrown out there. Obviously Adam mentioned Tommy Raphael. He's always good for a poach, and he is a player Leinster have come again. I know it's Ireland, but in particular there's a good few Leinster players in that forward pack have come across a lot recently and have dealt with him fairly okay. I think we've played Leicester 4 times in the last 3 years, and Tommy Raphael hasn't really been a threat at the breakdown. So it's not that Tommy's not a bad player. He's a good player, but I think certain Leinster players in that team have detailed on him and know what to expect. He's not the surprise package he was 18 months ago. So I'm no doubt he'll get a few turnovers because he's such a quality player. But the surprise of Tommy Raphael is going to make an impact. That's something the Irish players and the Irish forwards in particular will know. So yeah, I suppose for the winning and losing the game, I struggle to see where they can get that sort of majority possession game, because I do think they need that amount of possession. to give them that sort of broken play, to get the Dyers in play where he can make yardage and get defences turned, and then Wales sort of can flood through on attack, which they showed for great stretches of the game in Scotland, and obviously some less so in England, but in the England game. But in some ways, England knew what to expect the second time when they seen Wales the second half, and Ireland now have the benefit of seeing Wales twice. So it's not the surprise package it was if it was in match day one. I think Wales are going to need a pretty perfect day at the set piece on their own ball to sort of give them some sort of chance to get inroads on depriving that Irish team ball, because as we know, if you look at the last 25 games or something, Ireland generally have the majority of possession in an awful lot of those games. I think the South African game, maybe in the World Cup, was the only one where it was the inverse. And a lot of where Ireland's wins is sort of founded in that keep ball, tire out defences, keep the ruck play going, quick ball. I think if it's close though, I think Wales do have guys in the bench that could revert back to the great days of the Sean Edwards defence. You know, Rowlands is Mason Grady, they're all big guys. That young guy from Cardiff is a big lump as well. Even though it's a bit of a jump up for him on his 10th game, which I didn't know, as Jamie pointed out. So I think if Ireland play to type, but look, it's a Six Nations game. Wales aren't going to come over here and get their bellies tickled either. So Ireland, we'll have to give them the due respect, but I think if they play to the systems, it's hard not to see an Irish win, because you just from a coaching point of view, when you sort of look at the game, it's hard for me to see where Wales can get that sort of majority possession that to give them the rugby chaos, give them the ball where they can get a bit of broken field play. Costello is, I think, long term is the right choice to go back to him. He obviously didn't have a great day against Scotland. So I'd say Wales targeting Frawley at the back and Ireland targeting Costello at 10 will be an interesting sort of sidebar to who can get out on top there. I think if I was Wales, I'd probably try and target Frawley as best I can, because it could give them possession up the field. Again, but you don't fall into that trap. The Irish wingers have a good habit. You sort of have two semi-fullbacks who like to sit deep there. So I don't think you'll find the Irish wingers pulling back a bit. So if Wales are brave enough in and around sort of first phase to go wide quick, they might find room out on the outside edges as Ireland wingers sort of step back to sort of give Frawley some protection. So it'll be an interesting sort of chess match from that point of view. But it is hard to see, where Wales are going to get that sort of majority platform to play the game that they want to play. But yeah, it'll be interesting to watch.
I think you're on the money there, because I actually wrote about it last week, coincidentally, about Wales and about Ireland as well. And like, Wales did actually have more possession in both their opening two games. Granted, against England, that's you'll kind of get used to that. I think they'll play predominantly without the ball, but they had more possession in both games. They're top three in carries, in meters, in passes, and in line breaks. So they're well able to play when they get going. The bit that stood out to me though was they're first in attack and ruck entries. They are having to flood the breakdown to keep that pace alive. And against Ireland, with Andrew Porter, who gets a lot more ruck work done than just maybe turnovers, Tyke Byrne, Peter O'Mahony, Josh Fallon-Fear, Caelan Doris, and even to a degree, Bundy, Stuart McCluskey, Robbie Henshaw, they're going to have a tough day if they're not at the same level in terms of flood the breakdown. And if that happens, then it'll become stop-start, and it could be like the first half of the Scotland game again for Costello and Thomas Williams. It is this time. Jamie, I'll just come on to you if you want to expand on anything there, if there's anything else that you think will be a key factor in this game.
Well, you mentioned the breakdown there. I think we are going to have to rely on Tommy Reffell, and we have done these past two games. He has been Wales' best player. He has single-handedly kept Wales in the games. He's been fantastic. The back row is a big battle. I think Wainwright has been superb. I pretty much agree with what Tom says. It's just difficult to see how Wales get this platform, because we are underpowered and we need a good scrum. We need our line out to function. The set piece is going to be so key. The kicking game, I think the kicking game is going to be really important. I do see a lot of kicking going on, and this is where Costello now has to show that he can control the game, because we haven't quite seen that from Costello yet. So we need to see some control at 10 going forward. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it, really. It's just, can we have a solid set piece? If we kick well, and let's just go from there. But we got to do the basics right, I feel, to have any chance against Ali, because we're not going to overpower them. We're not going to do that. We can't play this physicality game. So we just got to make sure the set piece is stable and the kicking game is good.
I think that's fair. Adam, I'll come to you before we get on to predictions. Anything that stands out to you that we haven't discussed or do you want to expand on?
I agree with Jamie, because I think the kicking game is sort of key in this situation. I feel like in the Six Nations, certainly the opposition against us, I saw a lot on how I think it was like Squidge Rugby's YouTube, about how we almost, our kicking game turned over how France normally play in their kicking game, because I think our returns are that good with James Lowe in that sort of pocket in the 22. It's just finding a way of how to, as you said, Keelan, I think you said how, well, it was Tom even, how the wingers drop back. It's how to tempt those wingers back in and sort of alienate Frawley. And that way, I feel, how can teams do that when I can imagine Lowe is quick enough to get back on the turnaround. I think Costello's got a big task at hand, and I think it's going to be good for him. Like a test against a team like Ireland, and the way that they kick it. Almost if they kick it back, that James Lowe will just repeat and just keep on repeating until he gets like a 50-22, or he gets some type of length on the ball, and then that will lead to the lineouts. So yeah, I agree with Jamie. I think the kicking game is, in a way, if you figure out how Ireland's set up and you kick it smartly, it could be a way to set up platform, possibly. But yeah.
Just before we move on to predictions and wrap things up, Jamie, I might just ask you a quick question that's come to mind, because I get the sense from our conversation and from others that performance is what matters most here for Wales. Don't get hockeyed. Stay in the game as long as you can. That's the fundamentals of a Gatland team at the very least. Do you think there's an element of a free hit about this game, because France at home, Italy at home, they're home games. They're entirely different kettle of fish. Ireland are 17 wins on the bounce at home. They're the best team in the world that are playing at the moment, we'll put it that way, as to not piss off our Southern Hemisphere friends. Do you think there is an element of free hit, and that the likes of Costello and maybe Rafael or Daffyd Jenkins can go out there, and if it doesn't go perfect, that's fine? Do you think there's an element of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I know it sounds like a cop-out, but this game definitely is a free hit for Wales, because, look, nobody's expecting Wales to win this game. We are huge underdogs. I can't remember the last time Wales were so heavily written off going into a game against Ireland. It hasn't happened the past few years. They've always been tight, close games between these two nations. But Ireland, who, in my mind, are the best team in the world. I know South Africa won the World Cup, but they are arguably the best team in the world. Nobody's expecting Wales to pick up a win here. I mean, it would arguably be one of Gatland's greatest ever victories if he did pick up a win. I do think it's about performance on Saturday. I do think that we're going to learn an awful lot about this young team on Saturday, because it'll be a huge test for them, huge experience for them. And, they just need to stay in the contest for me. I think if Wales come out of this with they battle hard with their heart in the sleeve, they stay in the fight, in the contest, then I think that it'll be credible. But what we don't want to see, well, I know Irish fans don't want to see it, but what we don't want to see is an absolute hammering and the game over before halftime. We don't want that. We need to build on the performance. We need green shoots. So, yeah, it's all about the performance on Saturday. Can we be competitive? Can we stay in the fight? And let's take some positives out of this game. But no doubt about it, this is going to be a huge learning curve for some very, young players on that field. And it's a big, big test for them.
I'd agree with all that. I think it's a good place to start with predictions, because Wales have never been this much of an underdog against Ireland. Not
No.
that I remember anyway. I think someone said it's about 22 points at the moment. I think Ireland will get a bonus point win. I think they'll win by about 17-20. I think is fair. I think they'll pull away. Wales will make it difficult. Wales will always make it difficult. Like, we're lying to ourselves. We think otherwise. But I think Ireland will pull away. I'll say Ireland by 17-20, give or take. Adam, I'll come to you next. What's your... I think we can assume that most of us are going to say Ireland here, but why and how much?
I think it's going to be an Ireland bonus point, and I'm going to say by 12 to 15 points. I think Wales have got nothing to lose, and this is probably their best opportunity to express themselves and how they are as a team. And if they want to try something new, why not try it against, as Jamie said, the best team in the world. Well, give and take. But like, why not try a lot of things like against us? Why not try like some different tactics to try and confuse players that are playing against, because they have nothing to lose. I feel like they're going to put up a good fight. I want them to put up a good fight. Because certainly with the game against France and the game against Italy, I don't feel like we have had a good fight, a good physical battle yet. And I feel like it could be Wales's chance to make it that. And the balls, as I said, I still think it's going to be an Ireland bonus point win, but I'm not going to disrespect Wales in any way to say it's going to be necessarily a blowout. So I'm going to say about 12 to 15 points.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Jamie, what do you expect to see, and what would you like to see from Wales?
Well, I'd love to see us be competitive and give Ireland a really good game. But look, if Wales are going to have any chance at all in this game, we know that the kicking game needs to be spot on. We know the set piece needs to be solid. We have to be clinical. You know, when Ireland are in the red zone, more often than not, they come away with points. They're very clinical, Ireland. Wales, we've been in the red zone a lot of times this tournament, and we haven't always come away with points. And we are not going to get many chances at the Aviva Stadium. So any chance we do get, any opportunity, we're going to have to take them. I think our defence as well needs to be tight. We're going to have to do a lot of defending, I feel, in this game. Our discipline has been really good throughout this tournament, and we need that to continue as well. But I am going to go for a bigger margin of victory for Ireland. I just think, as I said earlier, I just think Wales, they haven't got the power to take on these big physical teams like Ireland. And, there's a lot of experience in there as well. And we are on a learning journey at the moment for this young team. So let's hope Wales can be, competitive. And I just want them to go there and give it a crack, because like we said, there's nothing to lose. Wales are huge underdogs. Just go there, be positive. Let's try a bit of rugby chaos then. Why not? Let's see how that gets on. It could be fun. Who knows? Or it could be a total disaster. We'll soon find out, won't we? But I'm going to have to go for Ireland by, I think, at least 25. Because I just think of the bench as well. And I think, you guys have got so much quality, depth, and experience coming off our bench. And I think it's going to be a very punishing afternoon for Wales. But hopefully this young group will take a good learning from it. But I'm going to go Ireland by 25, I'm afraid.
Fair. Tom, I'll let you round things off. It's 3 for 3 for Ireland so far. If you're going to say Ireland, how much and why?
Yeah, I think the last two games Ireland have played Wales is just echoing what Jamie said. It's been sort of 24 points, the Six Nations. I think we're going to be in that territory again, mainly because Ireland are the same, or if somewhat better. Since a couple of years ago, they've been obviously been on a big run since then. And Wales, no doubt, are in transition. So you sort of have to, when you look at the youthful side of the Welsh team, you have to sort of just look at it in realistic terms. I think rugby chaos in the first 15 minutes, if it pays off, could be the difference between me and Jamie's prediction of sort of a 22-25 point score, and maybe Adam's 12 and 10 points difference. I think Wales can get a score, but Ireland are going to be going for I think Wales's defence is quite good, so that bonus point might be a little bit tricky. You just don't know on the day. But yeah, Ireland sort of 22-25 points again, like Jamie said, and more than likely on the back of that it would be a bonus point win. But as long as it's competitive as game as well, we don't want to see a blowout. Like I remember too many games watching Ireland, and I'm sure Wales looked at too many games in the 90s when we're both getting blowouts or receiving blowouts, and it does nobody any favors.
I'll just remind you, Tom, I am a Dragons fan and I'm seeing blowouts every single week. So I really don't want another blowout this week. I can't take it anymore. And we got Ulster next, and oh dear.
No, wait, hold on. I'm more nervous about that than you are.
You really shouldn't be. Have you watched us play this season? You should be.
Well, I suppose the only thing is Dragons may have been lucky, not lucky. Maybe 40 points was a good result against Glasgow last week, considering
It
the two
flattered
sides.
us. It flattered us big time.
So
yeah,
I heard. So maybe same again could do. Win by 40, one team being flattered, the other team being happy. Like, I wouldn't say no, to be honest. But gentlemen, we'll leave it at that because it's been brilliant, and I think we've got everything covered anyways. So thanks to Tom, to Jamie, and to Adam for joining me this evening.
Cheers.
As always, I will just run through the fixtures that we have this weekend. Remember, you can catch this game on RT2, ITV, or whoever your local broadcaster is from 2:15 p.m. Irish time on Saturday afternoon, or from the Aviva Stadium, hopefully on a dry day. I don't think it's promised. Elsewhere this weekend on Saturday, we have the Calcutta Cup as Scotland take on England at 4:45. That's on Virgin Media 1 and BBC 1. And on Sunday, France host Italy at 3 p.m. on RT2 and ITV. While the Ireland under-20s are back in action on Friday night, also against Wales. That's at Musgrave Park from 7:15 p.m. kickoff, and that is live on RTE2. We should be back on Sunday with our weekly review show of the tournament as we look back on all 3 men's Six Nations games and that Ireland under-20s tie with Wales. So stay tuned for that. Well, next week we have the next part of the My Life in Rugby interview series as I chat to former Munster out half turned pundit and nutritionist Johnny Holland. So thanks home to everyone for listening. If you like what you see or hear, please do like, subscribe, leave a review. It all makes a difference. And I'll attach the links to the lads' stuff down below, including the WRRAP Podcast for all things Welsh rugby. But for now, and until next time, take it easy.